Welcome back, everyone. We're going to get started on our next dish. We are going to make some burgers. They're going to be a lentil base with some collard greens and some mushrooms all sauteed and mixed in them. And this is kind of a simple dish, but it's also really great when you go to potlucks or picnics this summer because it's really wonderful for people with any kind of food restriction or food allergy. There's no soy in this. These can be made gluten-free. Of course, they're vegan, so they're everybody friendly. All right, so let's get started. Before you do anything else, you want to make sure you have your lentils cooked. So this is lentils that were dried in a bag, and now they've been cooked in broth, and we have 2.5 cups of them. So we'll set those aside. And before we do any other thing, we want to take our food processor because it's nice and dry on the inside. And this is just some oatmeal. These are some rolled oats. We're going to add them to the food processor and actually make our own oat flour. All right, it does not take very long. And this is a really nice thing that you can do with, with all kinds of stuff to make your own flours, really. You can do this with like quinoa and make a quinoa flour. You have to be careful sometimes that whatever you're pulsing doesn't have any wetness to it, or else it's going to turn it into like a paste. But you can see this worked very well. So now you don't have to go buy expensive oat flour. You can use, a big container of oatmeal that you've had in your fridge. All right, so we're going to set that aside. Now we're going to put some of our vegetables in the food processor as well. And this is just, instead of chopping everything, it's going to make them all nice and really small little pieces. So we're going to do a cup of mushrooms. Just rough chop 1 medium onion. Throw that in the food processor along with 3 cloves of garlic. And then keep the lid on when this is done, or else you're going to burn your eyeballs out of your head. So let's get these going. Okay, that's done too. We're going to grab our collard greens now. So we're going to use about a cup of collard greens, which is about like 5 or 6 big leaves. So just like we do with kale, take the stem and just rip the stem off. All right, so now you have this big pile of flat leaves. So we're going to kind of get them all going in the same direction. And then start at one end and just roll them all into each other. All right, so once you have this big, thick stack of leaves all rolled up, just take your knife and cut them very thin. They're going to turn into ribbons. Okay. So you can see they kind of look like these long skinny ribbons. These are actually great to use like in a salad or just to saute with some olive oil and garlic. But we're going to chop them a little bit more. So all of our vegetables are chopped. Let me grab a pan. And I have 2 teaspoons of water in the pan, and you can use water instead of olive oil to saute a little bit. It just kind of saves on calories. So I have a little bit of water in the bottom of this pan, and now I'm going to put that onion and garlic mixture in there. We're going to saute this for about 3 or 4 minutes. Then add the mushrooms and saute those. And after another 3 minutes, we'll add the greens. We'll saute everything together, so about 10 or so minutes on the stove. And we'll add a few of our spices at the end, mix everything up, and continue on with our burgers. So once all of your veggies have just about finished sauteing on the stove, we're going to add a few more spices. So this is 1.5 teaspoons of oregano and 1 teaspoon of thyme. And then 2 teaspoons of Bragg's or a tamari sauce, and that's just going to give it a little more flavor. And the mushrooms soak that up really nicely too. And then 2 or 3 shakes of liquid smoke, and this is going to help give it that like smoky burger flavor. So, and this stuff is strong, so just, put in a little, try it if you want. We're going to take this back to the stove for just another minute, and then add this to our lentils. Alrighty, everything's done. So now we're going to add this mixture along with the lentils to the food processor and blend everything up. There we go. All right, so now we have this like lentil dough. Get that all out. And this is gonna be enough for, on average, you know, you can make these really whatever size you want. You can make them small and make them sliders, but it'll make about 6 like good size burgers on average. Okay, so now to the dough, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of oat flour. It's about like that. And 1/4 of a cup of nutritional yeast, of course, because I love it on everything. That's gonna help round out the flavors really well. Okay, now mix everything together. Get a baking sheet, put some parchment paper down, and we're gonna spray the parchment paper with a little bit of cooking spray. And that way everything is gonna slide off really easily. So have your oven preheated to 350 degrees. And now to make sure that your patties are like relatively even, take the dough and split it in half. And then take your halves and split those into thirds. And obviously, you know, you guys are smart, you can do basic math. It's gonna equal 6 patties at the end. Okay. Grab them, form them, and we're gonna push them into our baking sheet. Okay, and just go ahead and make them all. And then we're gonna get those in the oven. We're gonna start at 15 minutes, flip them over, and then cook them for another 10, and they will be finished. And in the meantime, we're gonna get started on the sauce. While our burgers are cooking in the oven, we're gonna just make a really simple creamy sauce to put on top. So this is gonna be cashew based. So take a 1/2 cup of raw cashews, and then a 1/2 cup of water. There's no added oil or any bad stuff in this. Then a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And the Dijon mustard really helps to bring out just like that little bit of extra flavor. It has that little bit of spiciness, a little bit of vinegar, makes everything really good. 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. So it's gonna be a nice smoky sauce. And then just a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. All right, let's get everything mixed together, and you're gonna wanna keep this blending for like a whole minute or two, because we really wanna break down those cashews. That should do it. Now, if you have a high-speed blender that will really pulverize the cashews, go ahead and use it. But this works just fine. You just have to do it a little longer, and then you have less dishes to wash. So that's one advantage of using the food processor. All right, so let's pour that out, and we'll just set that aside till we're ready to plate our burgers. So our burgers are out of the oven. They've cooled down for a few minutes, but you can eat them right away while they're still hot. You can also actually freeze these burgers if you make a whole bunch ahead of time, and then you can just reheat them before you serve them. So what you want to do is get some nice big rolls, and just ask your bakery to make sure that you get some rolls that don't have any eggs or dairy in them. And big rolls are going to make all the difference to make this a really good sandwich. So cut the rolls in half. And I'm actually gonna move the patty aside a little bit and just start stacking it with some burger ingredients. So I have tomatoes, red onion, some lettuce, some mixed greens. You know, put on pickles, put on like whatever you normally put on a burger. All right, we'll put that patty on there, and then don't forget, of course, the sauce that we just made. Pile a whole bunch of that right on the top. Let it drip down the sides a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And top it with some of those greens. And this is going to be so awesome at a potluck, at a summer picnic, or just for you for lunch. So I hope you enjoy. We have a guest coming over right now to meet us, so stay tuned.